From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good morning, everyone. It is a real pleasure to be here, and I really feel like I'm amongst friends, so thank you for inviting me. I'm the Executive Director. My name is Scott Walter, Executive Director of CODE, which is known as the Canadian Organization for Development Through Education. We've been around for some 60 years, supporting access to quality education. Our vision is one of every child, every young person having the ability to pursue quality education, and through that to realize their full potential. Really with the belief that perhaps the best way, perhaps the only way to really sustain and generate human and economic growth is through quality education. Our model of development, which is fairly straightforward but is based on years and years of experience and practice, is one of essentially saying that if you want to make and support literacy gains, on one hand, you need the sustained access to quality, relevant learning and reading materials, and on the other hand, having educators with the skills to use those materials effectively in the classroom or in the library or in the home. And then together with a focused program of evaluation and assessment to ensure that we know what we're doing and that we're improving quality. So on the book side, this is a big part of what we do. 60 years ago, we started off as a donated book program. But thankfully, we've become a much more sophisticated organization, and really it's all about the quality of the material, so the what, the context of what we're doing. And in that regard, we work very closely with publishing industries locally, working with authors and illustrators and editors to ensure that we're working right across the entire book chain and supporting materials in mother tongue, but also that it's a sustained supply. And I think that's an important point, that if materials are not from that local context, it's really difficult to ensure that the materials are reflecting the local environment and engaging children. So these are pictures of some of the materials. We work in about 17 different languages. Of local language, but as well as in English, French, and Portuguese. We also, many of the materials, or much of the work that we do is in early grade, so there's a lot of work with mother tongue, but we believe strongly that the reading habit has to be one that's lifelong in nature. So over the last 10 years, we've become more active in work with young adult literature, and trying to support the development and access to material that, again, reflect the child's environment and material that relate to their own lives and what they're doing, and hopefully be getting them to become engaged readers and lovers of reading as a result. We work through teaching. I think this is actually my older PowerPoint that I said. But the point is that much of what we do with, we've realized that the books on their own are not enough, that you have to have those skills for teachers and educators to be able to use materials effectively. And a lot of that is at early grades, is in the actual teaching of reading and writing. I used to work for the International Reading Association. They had a book called Teaching Reading is Rocket Science, and it's an approach that we believe in, and it's an area that's been much neglected. So a big emphasis on the teaching and the skills of reading and writing, and ensuring that also that we're moving from that rote learning, memorization, teacher-centered approach to the active learning, participatory, child-centered approach. And we have to have a program. We want to make sure that there's quality control and standards and certification that go along with that we're negotiating performance standards, and that we're working closely with ministries of education to ensure that that is part of the national program. And this is an example of our partner in Liberia that's accredited as a provider. Where we work, mainly in Africa, we're in about 8 different countries, very challenging. We do a lot in Liberia and Sierra Leone recently, very, very challenging, but we're making huge strides, and it's one of the most rewarding areas that we're working. We also work in the Caribbean, and part of a newer program that I really like is we're in Canada itself. We're working with our Aboriginal peoples, the First Nation, Inuit, and Métis, which unfortunately share a lot of the problems that we see in the developing world in terms of marginalization and lack of access to quality education. So thank you very, very much for having me be here. That's part of a network that we're involved with in Africa. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you again.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.